posted on our Bell McCoy University for you guys. So you go back and reference it, or if you have folks that, aren't in this, that didn't get to catch it, this will be something that you guys can see. Kathryn Chiarelli is with Lutron. She does all of the, there's somebody's asking about sign in for attendance. No, we're not having a sign in for attendance. I don't know if this is a mandatory one for you guys.
Well, I'll tell you guys this. If you, I was going to ask everyone to please put a comment in the group chat anyway, just to let us know that you can hear us and you're all set. So if you guys all want to take 1 second, find the group chat, make sure you know where it is. And then if you want to just write a little hi or something, then we can export that and have a full list of everyone who is here. So
some of the, you might want to put your name there, because some of the logins are like A102646. So I'm guessing maybe you guys know it. I don't know if you guys are getting credit for this or not. But yeah, we're pleased to have Kathryn Chiarelli here. She's done a lot of work with the shades at Lutron, and she's fantastic presenting, the sales strategy behind shades and how to do in-home consultations and talking to designers and homeowners and things like that. So I think it's going to be a great presentation for you guys, and I'll get out of the way. But if you need anything afterwards, just reach out to your Bell McCoy rep, and we'd be more than happy to help you out on any of that stuff. We'll let Kathryn go ahead. Go ahead, Kathryn, you got it.
Okay, great, thank you. So we'll utilize this chat as a way for you guys to ask questions throughout. So if you have a question, please just write it in here. I'll keep an eye on it, and we can answer that live. So welcome, and thank you for joining. As James said, my name is Kathryn Chiarelli. I'm a residential shade sales leader at Lutron. I have been at Lutron for 8 years. I've worked on our resi sales team and also on our spec focus team. So working with architects and designers to teach them how to use Lutron solutions. Now, a couple things I want to cover today. The history of Lutron very briefly, including why we got into shading, the Lutron difference, and then how to sell and specify Lutron shading solutions. And today we're going to focus on products that you can pretty easily sell into existing homes. Now, some of you might know this, some of you may not. Lutron was founded in 1961 after Mr. Joel Spira, that's his photo up there, invented the solid state dimmer. So the rotary dimmer that you know from your grandparents' dining room was actually the first time that it was simple for homeowners to have lighting control in their home. Prior to that, it was pretty much the on-off switch. There were dimmers, but they were very big. They were called rheostats, and they were most often used in theatrical applications. So think of something like the size of a college textbook that you would need to install in your walls. That would be really difficult to use. So it was pretty innovative that Joel Spira created this thing that fit in a standard electrical back box and could be installed by any electrician to bring dimming to regular people, which is great. So he founded the company, and it was privately held and family owned and still is today, which is really unique about Lutron. We've been around for a long time. We are a technology company, but we're also a family-owned company, and we kind of get to do what we want. So you can see on the bottom right here, this is Susan Hekarainen, Joel Spira's daughter, who's kind of steering the ship today. So it's pretty awesome that it's still all in the family, and if we think that something's worth the investment, we're going to focus on it. So that brings us to why shades? Why shades? Like, why would a company that makes dimmers and lighting control systems start messing around with a home decor product? So the reasoning behind this is literally that Joel Spira felt that if we said that we controlled light in a space, we really had to consider artificial light, which we were doing with dimmers, and natural light, like light that comes through the windows. It was crazy to him that we weren't offering to control a huge part of the lighting scheme in a space. So in 1986, he basically said to his advisors, you know, I want to start making automated shades. And they said, you are out of your mind. We don't know anything about this. This is not what we do. It's not in our wheelhouse. And there you go, perks of owning your own company. Joel Spira said, well, I believe this is the future and we're going to focus on it. And so in 1986, we started developing automated shades. Now in 1993, we introduced the original Serena shade. I'm going to play a little video here. This is one of the original Serenas. It's actually installed in the Spira's home. The video was taken not too long ago. And you can see multiple bands of fabric that cycle through to give the customer several different options. Now, you don't see these laying around anymore. Obviously, this was not a super popular style, but very creative, was our first shade product. And we made them in the basement of our Coopersburg facility, which is our headquarters in Pennsylvania. Now, the other important thing to see here is that in 2003, we became profitable with shades. We carried that product we sold that product for 10 years before we started making money, which is very unusual. It's a real luxury for us that we have the ability to continue to invest in products that aren't proving their value yet because we know they're the future. So this was a little baby seeds that we were planting, knowing that one day they would grow into a giant forest. And so that's where we are today. Today, Lutron sells more automated window coverings, the completed solution, than anyone else, which is pretty unbelievable. So this was round two. After that original Serena, we launched what we refer to as the rotisserie drive. The drive, which is what we like to call the motor because it's really the motor plus some intelligence. It's on one side. Okay, there are some pretty big downsides to this. It's bulky, mostly. That's the big one. Asymmetrical. So this one didn't take off either, but that's okay. It took a couple iterations. Now today, if you look at our revenue, and if you were to group all of our residential systems business, which would be Caseta, Prostu Select, Radio Raw 2, and Homeworks, all of those dollars, and you guys can imagine how much of that we sell. As of last year, our shade sales surpassed all of our residential systems business combined. So the future is here. Shades are here, and it's a huge part of what people want to incorporate into their projects. Now, I have the word paradigm shift on here because I want to talk about why shades are so important to you guys. Now, there are so many times where we can think about a technology that gets created and slowly people start adopting it and eventually it's ubiquitous. Like, let's take the crank door handle. It's pretty hard, the window crank. If you want to buy a car, it's pretty hard to find a car with a crank window right now. It's almost standard in basically every vehicle, the exception being Jeeps. For some reason, Jeeps do sometimes come with a crank window. But otherwise, you're getting a button to roll down your window, and that's just the way it is. Automatic garage doors. If you have a garage that's attached to your house and you have power in there, you are certainly getting an automatic garage door. I think the biggest one we can think of where there's a new normal from a technology that just pretty recently got introduced, for me, how about the cell phone? 15 years ago, nobody spent $1,000 on a cell phone, and now everybody spends $1,000 on a cell phone. It's the power of an incredible computer in your hand. Everyone has one, and it's certainly a luxury, but it's a necessary luxury. That's the new normal. And so what we see happening here is the same thing with window treatments. So what we're hearing from the design industry, architects, designers, they tell us that even when they don't want a smart home, they still want smart shades. So I spent a couple years working on in Lutron's New York team, and we have a showroom which is walk-ins welcome. And so we get architects, designers, developers, a ton of homeowners that come into that space. And maybe, 6 years ago when I was on that team, people would come in to look at dimmers. They were coming to pick keypad styles and faceplate finishes. And they would notice our automated shades and they would ask us, oh, where'd you get those? Whose are those? Those are really nice. And we tell them, well, we actually have been making these since the 90s, and people are shocked. No clue that we made shades. Now, in that same showroom, 90% of the visitors are there to see shades. That's what people can see the value in immediately. They can pretty instantly understand why there's value in not having to walk around your house and adjust all of those shades by hand every single time you want to change the space. So especially right now, if you think about how you live and work in your space, if you've been spending more time at home, I know I have, I've been messing around with my window treatments right and left because all of a sudden I need more functionality. I need the ability to have a darker room at times or to bring in that natural light at other times. So we see this big shift coming, and guys, it starts with the uber wealthy. It always does. They were the first people to have cell phones, and now we all have cell phones, okay? The uber wealthy are the first people to have automated shades, but it trickles down. So more and more often, we are hearing from regular homeowners who see the value in the solution and are getting excited about it. So we didn't invent the shade. We didn't even invent the motorized shade. There were motorized shades before Lutron started making shades. But we have really put a lot of amazing engineering into, I would say perfecting, that's presumptuous. So greatly improving the automated shade. And I want to briefly touch on each of these because they're the differentiators you need to know when your customers ask you, so why should I go with Lutron? Here are your answers. So let's talk about each one of these. Breath of line. Now, I know today we said we were going to talk about shades that work well in the existing home, and we will focus on that. But it's really important that when you have multiple different styles of window, which is very normal in a home, and multiple different types of fashion that you're incorporating, for example, draperies or Roman shades where you have those soft fabrics versus something like a roller shade where you want something more modern and clean. It's really important that you can control it all under the same umbrella. So we don't have to worry about difficult integration between different drive manufacturers. If you use Lutron products, we can cover basically any window that you have in whatever style you want. Now, depending on how long you've worked in selling shades, you will have a different feeling about this. But if I ask homeowners, do you expect multiple windows to move together in unison? They will tell me yes. That is something they expect. Do you think it is an easy thing to accomplish as the shade manufacturer? The answer is no. Most motorized window treatment solutions, they do not move perfectly together. But the average homeowner just thinks that's going to happen. The really nice thing with the Lutron solution is it is going to happen. We have a patented technology called IHA, which stands for Intelligent Hem-Bar Alignment. And what that means is that when we say lower, all of these shades are going to lower in unison. It's something that you take completely for granted when you see it. You think, of course, this is how it's supposed to go. But I think that we all know that with technology, your assumption going into it, of course, this is how it's supposed to go, is often not reality. And so this is a huge differentiator for Lutron. If you are in any scenario where you have multiple windows in the same room and you're going to operate those shades together, we are the ones with this patented technology that lets you accomplish this. Now, if we're talking about battery-powered solutions, this is even more impressive. So I've got like so many honeycomb shades here, battery powered. Look at them moving together. It is, I mean, if you squint your eyes, it looks like 3 shades. So this is pretty awesome, very, very unique. The reason this is so special is because batteries over the course of their life push out different amounts of power. They push out more power when they're fresh. And so a less sophisticated battery powered shading solution would just feed that power directly along to the drive. And so it's kind of like pushing on the gas. If I'm pushing on the gas and I'm going, and I have, you know, extra gas in there, I'm pushing extra hard, I'm gonna go faster. So with many less sophisticated battery powered shades, that shade will move more quickly at the beginning of its life. And as it has less gas in that battery, less energy in that battery, that shade's gonna slow down a little bit. Now, when you only have one shade, does it matter so much? I don't know. If you have one shade, you probably don't notice that from year 1 to year 6, your shade, well, 6 is a long time for a battery powered shade to last. So let's say year 1 to year 3, that shade's moving slower, maybe not a big deal. Now, if you have 2 shades next to each other, batteries are not all equal. Even if they're from the same package, they might not have the same freshness. So you put them in and over time, now they're not moving at the same speed anymore. So that is super annoying. Angel, excellent comment. He says he had an experience where a client had some battery powered shades, or potentially not battery powered actually, and didn't appreciate the importance of the intelligent hem bar alignment and the precision movement, didn't think it mattered until he started using them. It's exactly true. And knowing that, having had that experience, it helps us appreciate why it's worth sharing this story. Like, look, I just want to make sure you know, Mr. Homeowner, that, you know, some of the value of the Lutron solution, because I can be upfront here, I don't think this is a negative comment. This is a really good story. Some of the value of the Lutron solution, which is not the most economical, I would say that it's not cheap, right? This is a premium solution. It's a beautifully engineered product, and it's the best product on the market. So there's value in that, and we just need to be able to explain it to them. Like, here's what you're paying for. Here's one of the things you're paying for. And guys, that's another reason why we like to call the guts of this shade a drive, because it's got motor, but it's got intelligence too. And the reason that we can, some of the reasons that we can track so precisely is because of the brains that are in that drive. Okay, control aesthetic. This is another one that people don't think about until it's too late. Plenty of companies with remote controlled shades, let's call them, have like a funky looking battery, remote control, sorry. And they think it's cool. Like, here's this cool item that we made, it looks really cool. It's like a piece of art, a sculpture, and it controls everything. Okay. The reality is that the architect or the designer or the homeowner, they don't care. They're not looking for a pretty, funky, colorful remote. They want something that completely disappears. Now, how do we know this is true? Because they Photoshop everything out of their photos. So if you go look on an architect's website, go look at a picture of a kitchen. By code, you have to have outlets. I don't know if you guys know that, but you have to have outlets for your coffee machine and your mixer and stuff like that. They Photoshop all of those outlets out because they don't actually want electrical devices. They Photoshop out light switches. They Photoshop out everything. So the best thing that we can offer them is a Pico that looks exactly like a light switch. You don't have to put it on the wall, but it's nice to have it on the wall so you don't lose it, because that's another problem with funky shaped remotes, is that they do tend to wander. So if we have this Pico that's exactly the dimension of a light switch, we just gang it right there next to our light switches, people will have literally no clue that they're not a wired-in device. And I know this because I have Picos controlling the shades in my apartment. And of course, I show my friends my shades because that's you know, what I do. This is my job. And they're always like, how'd you get this thing in here? Like, it's battery powered. It's not installed. So it's very cool that we have this completely coordinating aesthetic. And guys, if you're working on a solution where they have like a whole home system, something like, let's say if they're using Savant, you don't even need these Picos. Like, they can control it from the same iPad they're using for everything else. Although I will tell you, most designers don't really like an iPad either. Now, sometimes you'll hear when we talk about Lutron, one of the most frequent pieces of feedback that we get when we ask dealers, you know, why do you use Lutron? They literally say it just works. And it kind of does. Like, it does just work. And so we hear it so often in surveys and stuff that we kind of make a joke out of it, but it's true. There are always times where you are doing the installation and you run into hiccups. That's real life, right? Nobody is perfect, but once you get that thing up and running, you're not getting a callback. You might get a callback when they like put a plant underneath the shade and then they roll their shade down into it. That's kind of the worst case scenario. The shades do not self-destruct. Once they're up and running, they just shoot, smooth sailing, which is awesome. Now, the shade products that we offer are low voltage. That is the norm now. When we first started making shades, our first shade that was really a success was the Savoya QED. And that stood for Quiet Electronic Drive. Prior to us using a QED, people used line voltage. Like, shades sounded like a garage door. And it was really disruptive. You would never put them in your home. They were completely a commercial solution. So most people now are making low voltage shades as well, which is good. I mean, it's good when you create something and everyone else follows suit. It means you know you made the right move. Now, this next bullet is all about integration. So I understand you guys carry a decent number of what we might call like a home automation solution or an integration platform. We know that we don't make one of those, and we're not trying to. We're never going to be able to have the basis of knowledge that these integration companies have, and that's okay. We just want to sell our shades and our lighting controls and have them work with those solutions. So we play well in the sandbox. Whatever you want to use, if it integrates, we'll integrate with it. And that's kind of our rule of thumb. Now, two-way communication and instant RF commands. This is something that we have, we're kind of snagging some of this away from our lighting control system. These are real differentiators when it comes to other shade manufacturers. So what does two-way communication mean? It means that not only can my shade listen to a command, if I push my Pico and say close, my shade will listen to that command and it will close. It does that, but it also talks back to my system and says, hey, I'm closed. So this is really important for monitoring. If I have this system because it's my second home and I like to be able to open up my app and double check that all my shades are closed while I'm not there, that two-way communication is crucial. Otherwise, all I know is that I told the shades to close. But if I can't check that they actually closed, I can't use the solution for monitoring, which is so important, especially when it's not a home that people are in full time. Now, instant RF commands, if you've worked with a Lutron solution, let's say Caseta, Raw2 Select, any of our shading solutions, you know that as soon as you push that button, the device responds. It is truly instantaneous. And that's really, really important for lights. I mean, if you walk in the door and you hit on and your lights don't come on immediately, you're like, what's happening? I mean, that's not okay. So we have this amazing Clear Connect radio frequency communication that's direct communication. It's on a very low frequency. It's a lot like the lock button on your car key. It works every time because it can't do that much. You know, it's basically saying on, off, up, and down, but it is instantaneous and it is so reliable. You would not develop this for shades. It is just not worth it, right? I mean, you're not going to make your money back. I have no idea how many millions we've invested into creating Clear Connect. But I know that it gives us a huge leg up over other competitors, because every time you hit that Pico button, every time, 100% of the time, those shades will respond immediately. So there is no lag. There is no pushing it again to wake it up. First time, every time. And I live with them, so I feel strongly about this, guys. It's true. Okay, smooth, quiet starts and stops. There's that whole garage door thing. We don't want to hear your shades moving. I want to know that my shades are moving because it's getting dark in here. Preset stopping conditions, positions. These are different shade manufacturers have a different approach to this. Our approach is that you should be able to stop the shade at any point, because we know that there are specifics in every window. You can't just say 50% is the stopping point. You know, oh yeah, you can have this shade at 25%, 50%, 75%, or 100, all the way open. That's not good enough, because people want to align the hem bar with something in the space. They want to have it at exactly the same height as that mullion in the window, let's say maybe it's like a decorative wooden mullion or a metal mullion, a functional one, or a break in the window. They may want to align it just perfectly so that the sunlight doesn't hit their rug in the space. Who knows what percentage that's at? I mean, we really need the functionality to be able to tweak it by single percentage points so that we can get that shade to exactly the right spot. Okay, now 10-year power fill memory. This is another one of those. We would never have developed this for shades. What this is talking about is if you lose power, and a really good example to think about here is, let's say you have a vacation home in, I don't know, the only vacation place I can think of in Texas right now is Galveston. So I'm from New York, guys. So let's say you have a vacation home in Galveston, which I think has a lake. And so you go there certain times of year for vacation, but then you leave because you don't live there full time. And there's a storm and your power line comes down, and so you don't have power to the house. It might be a day, it might be a week, but it's a vacation home. What if you don't find out about this? You know, you get back there and it is a year later, 2 years, 10 years, whatever. No matter how long it is up to that 10 years, once that power comes back, those shades know where they are and their own programming. I would argue that if you get to 10 years without power, there are bigger problems that you need to deal with than reprogramming your shades. So what this means is it just removes the anxiety of, if there's an interruption to power, it's okay. Everything is going to go back to normal. It all still knows what it's supposed to do. And so that's a creation that we have for our home automation systems, and we get to pull that into shades too, which is a really nice differentiator again of Lutron. Now, the last thing here is that the drive always knows the shade position. Inside, right there where you see all that green stuff, that circuit board, there's a bunch of sensors, there's a bunch of little mini computer type things, and if someone goes up and tugs on that shade, let's say they don't realize it's automated, they go over and tug on it, the shade's going to know that it got tugged down. So next time you hit the button, it will just go back to the position it's supposed to be at. So don't worry about that messing it up. And then the last really big differentiator is that we sell the completed shading solution. So we make that shade in the Lutron facility. We end of line test all of it. We plug it in, we power it. This is actually how we test. So it's on those two brackets, it's powered up, and we're gonna unroll and roll up that shade to double check that it looks good before we ship it out. We're gonna look for fabric wrinkles or defects. We're gonna listen for any sounds. We expect to hear no sounds, and that's all really important before we ship it out the door. So those are the big differentiators. Now, if we're talking about existing homes, which I understand you guys get to talk to homeowners all the time who have existing homes that they're looking to make improvements to. So what do we need? We need a solution that we can install in one visit. Like, I need to be able to receive my shade, bring it to the homeowner's house, and pop it in there. That's important. I need to know that I don't have to have an electrician come in to do wiring. It needs to be simple. I'm not ripping open the walls. I need it to look good without needing to go somewhere else. I don't want to have a mill worker come in and build me a fancy thing on top so it looks good. I don't want to tell this lady she's got to go to like Bed Bath & Beyond and buy some valance to put over it. I'm going to sell her a solution that looks amazing as soon as I pop it in there. And then I need some different styles because my customer might want different stuff. So what are we talking about here? Triathlon. Our triathlon line is intended for the existing home. Now, it works great in new construction too, but it has the ability to be battery powered. It comes in pretty wide widths. You can go pretty big, and I know Joel's going to cover that with you guys tomorrow. And it's flexible and affordable, and the installation time is so fast. I personally have 3 triathlon products installed in my home. And while I was not the one doing the drilling for any of those installations, that is not because it is hard. It's because I am short. So, triathlon. What are the really cool benefits here? First of all, simple power options, battery powered. D batteries, you buy them at Walgreens, or you guys probably, I don't know if you have Walgreens by you. Heb, that's a Texas store, right? HEB, is that a Texas store? You buy them wherever you buy batteries, easy. Instant response. It's that same reliable Lutron Clear Connect. You push the button and the shade moves, which is great. And then we have the precision drive. So basically we've got a spring built in there that the shade helps use this spring, which coils as it drops, and that helps lift the shade back up without using extra battery power. So it's going to last a really, really long time. And so they all come together to form triathlon, which is like the race, but it's spelled wrong. So just remember that. Now, I want to talk about how to spell this stuff, because I know you guys are salespeople, and I know you are probably really great at selling the stuff that you get excited about. And we work so often with dealers who come to us with a really extensive automation background and not too much experience with window treatments, and they're just a little bit uncomfortable. And the number one thing, the number one reason that if they're not successful selling shades, it's because they don't tell people about it. Nobody knows that you guys sell shades. People think that like Country Curtains sell shades and Bed Bath & Beyond sell shades, but they don't think to go to their technology providers for shading solutions. So you've got to tell them that you carry it. That's a really, really important thing to do. Now, another important element is knowing the stories. And so I say this because, in my opinion, and I've been in sales my whole career, the way that I sell these products is through sharing anecdotes. And I've shared several with you already since we've been on this call. I like stories, and I think that they help illustrate the benefits of a solution and why it's special. So what are the stories you need to know? The differentiators, which we've just gone through. All of the things that make Lutron special. The fact that we end-of-line test. The fact that we have these cool sensors in there that measure. The fact that if you leave your Galveston lake house for 10 years, your shades will, and you lose power, your shades will still work. Those are all the stories. Then we've got benefits. So let's talk about benefits. Now, we often fall into the trap of talking about features. Like triathlon shades use Clear Connect. Clear Connect is a 434 megahertz radio frequency communication protocol. I don't know if that matter means anything to you guys. I can guarantee you that means absolutely nothing to 99% of the human beings on this planet. They don't know what it means, and they don't know why it's important. So don't tell them the feature, tell them the benefit. This solution uses a radio frequency communication protocol that's going to work reliably every single time, immediately. So those are the stories we want to tell. So I have a bunch of examples up here, and I just want to talk about them to get your creativity flowing. So let's start with convenience. What does this mean? Use voice control to get privacy instantaneously. Oh, you have a master bathroom and you step out of it and forget to close the shades? Alexa, close the shades instantaneously. We don't have to get up. It's not laziness. We wouldn't ever have a television without a remote control, right? I've just finished binge watching Mad Men for the second time during this quarantine. And in the beginning episodes, Don Draper tells his kids to get up and turn off the TV. That's pretty funny. Like, that's just not, I don't even know where the off button is on the TV now. We're so used to being able to control our television from sitting down. It's crazy that we can't control everything else in our space from sitting down as well. How about waking up to natural light? I would imagine this has gotten to you guys at Magnolia in a similar way as it's trickling into our traditional type of dealers, but wellness is a huge trend right now. People want to feel like their body is living in nature. They want to have those alarm clocks that wake them up with light or bird sounds or something, because the more technical we are, the more time we spend with technology, the more our bodies crave natural things. And so to wake up to daylight, have your shades lift 30 minutes before you wake up so you ease into waking up. You're not getting jarred out by a harsh alarm sound. That's really special for people. Of course, hard to reach windows are a no-brainer, but you guys might not think about it. So if you're in the house and you're looking around and you see a way high up window, just ask, hey, what were you thinking about doing with that window? Bring it up. It might be that they thought that there was no option. It might be that they thought that battery-powered shades cost $4,000 a piece. And it might be that they don't know that you can provide it to them. So keep the kids asleep by making sure the shades are down. Shut down the home with a single button. So no more walking around the house. This is a big one for lighting control as well. We don't have to do that sweep. And I know you guys probably all do the sweep. I do the sweep. Walk around. What lights are on? Off, off, off. Turn off that light. Turn off the light under the microwave. Like all those things. So we can do that all with a single button. Not your microwave light. Sorry, you're stuck doing that one yourself. Okay. How about elegance? You can tell right away if you're in somebody's home. You can tell if they're entertainers. Do they have like a really big dining room table? Do they have a bar with glassware out? It's decorative. These people like to have parties. So let's talk to them about elegance. Single button push and your shades are perfect. You have 6 shades looking outside. Well, how about if you know at all times that those shades are going to be perfectly aligned so your house looks really nice from outdoors? That's a big one. Now, aesthetics. The cleanest shades are the ones you don't touch. If they have kids, let's mention this. Hey, these shades are going to look awesome literally forever because you are never going to touch them once. Now we have the story of uniformity from outside. Everything will line up. And then a really big one, and for you guys especially because you live in a sunny, sunny place, any light that is coming into your home contains UV. And that UV is going to break down the organic materials in your space. Now, what's an organic material? Your couch, your wood floor, your furniture, anything upholstered, even things like ceramics and tiles and marbles, they will bleach over time. So if we can protect our space from UV damage just by having these shades come down automatically at, let's say, 9 a.m., everyone in the house goes to work or school, and then they can lift again later when we're home. We are protecting all of our belongings from the sun. And pretty much everyone knows what you're talking about because we've all had something that bleached, a rug, a couch, a piece of art, a photograph. And so I don't really say this to customers, but I like to make the joke. It's not, can you afford automated shades? It's, can you afford to not have automated shades? So try that one on. Think of it at least. Now, we'll talk about fabrics in a second, but you basically have whatever choice you want for aesthetics. So it's going to match. It can match, it can stand out, it can be exciting, it can be modern, it can be traditional. There are so many options, and that's totally separate from the technology, and they have that option. I really hate the second bullet point because it's very tacky and like a little trashy sounding, but get some Neutrogena to clear up your wall acne. I say it because I think it sticks in your head. Always think about how they're going to control it. And is what we're controlling it with going to be uglier than what they have already? No, we're going to offer them a Pico. It's going to blend in perfectly with their controls. It's going to go into a faceplate that exactly matches their existing faceplates, and it's going to be beautiful. And then we've got a goodbye scene that we can trigger instantly, has all of those lights to the perfect settings, brings your shades down for privacy so nobody can see in. These are all really important. Okay, security. Now, I don't know if you guys carry security systems, but if you do, they can probably integrate in with this solution, which is great. Even just standalone though, you can use geofencing with our simplest bridge, like a caseta bridge. You can use geofencing to turn those lights on when you get close to the home. When you leave, you can trigger Smart Away. So Smart Away will have your shades and lights adjust so that it looks like you're home. A little warning for you though, I gave my dad a caseta system and he turned on Smart Away accidentally, always. So for a while he thought he had a ghost. So that's just something to know. You might want to help them out with the programming. And don't tell them about scaring off an intruder, okay? That's creepy. But it is possible to tie in the Lutron solutions to many security systems so that should the security alarm get triggered, your lights come on and your shades open. In general, what we find is in a security environment, if you have an intruder, lifting those shades is a huge deterrent because they don't want to be seen. Now, cord-free is pretty important on shades now. There are a lot of rules about how wide a cord can be because unfortunately it does cause a strangulation risk for primarily children, also cats. And so now it's really hard to actually get a shade with a string. They just don't really make them anymore because they're not safe. So with an automated shade, you don't have to worry at all. There are no strings. It's all done just by that motor turning up at the top. And of course, you can monitor the activity when you're away. What are the kids doing? Did they close the shades? Are they eating dinner in the kitchen with all the shades open so people can see in? And then finally, energy savings. You're not going to get a return on investment here, okay? Because shades cost money and the average home doesn't spend enough money on energy to make their money back on commercial jobs. You can make your money back, which is pretty unbelievable. But what you are going to find is if you have those wide open windows and you just have sunlight coming in, let's say you have manual shades, you know you're not closing them. You are not remembering to close them every day. That sunlight is going to come streaming in. It's going to get uncomfortably hot. Like you say, you leave early in the morning, you get back midday, you forgot to close the shades, and now it's 1 billion degrees in your kitchen, and your poor air conditioning is trying, but it can't even keep up. So this keeps that from happening entirely. Keeps your space comfortable, keeps your HVAC costs down. And daylight is something that we should be using, whether it's because we want to save money on our electricity bill and we don't want to use light bulbs we don't need. That's cool. But also, we want that view to outside. When it is nice out and it's not too bright, we want to take advantage of that natural light and the views to outdoors. That's really important for happiness. Okay, now the third part of knowing the stories is to know what it works with. So I think a lot of these are probably familiar to you guys, but I carry a bunch of these products. Our stuff ties into other people's solutions. And there's some that aren't even on here. I think the really big ones are voice control. Stuff like Amazon Alexa, or the Google Home, or the Apple HomePod. I think that's what it's called. Sorry, guys. I'm actually a terrible electronics consumer in my house. I do have a Sonos, which I love, but it is haunted and it turns on my television. I blame that on Alexa or Sonos, or maybe it's the TV's fault. I'm not actually sure. Even something like URC. There are all of these ways to make it work together. So I think, like, look at these names and think about which ones you talk about on a regular basis. It's fun to throw that in there. Like, they're putting in a home theater and they have a remote control that they're using to turn on the TV and turn on the speaker system. Well, what about bringing the shades down so you can actually see what you're watching? It's very likely that our shades can work right on that remote. So that's a huge benefit, and it's something that, again, they don't realize they can get. They don't know how to get it. You offer it. Tell them about it. There's no harm in telling them about it. Now, it's also really important to speak their language. So if you start throwing out technical stuff, they are going to shut down. They don't know what you're saying. We have this thing. It's inside the shade. You might want to call it a motor. There's a motor there. It's on the right-hand side. That's totally true. You might want to call it a motorized shade. You can do that, but what does the average homeowner think of when they hear the word motor? They think of cars, they think of planes, exhaust, gasoline, dirty, stinky, loud. So I would challenge you guys, don't say motorized anymore. Don't say motor. Let's talk about automated shades. Let's talk about smart shades and drives. The drive has intelligence and a motor. And people know what you mean by drive. They'll understand what you're talking about, and it's just a more sophisticated sounding solution. So we don't want them to jump to conclusions that they don't need to if we use words that have a really bad connotation. Now, when you're with a homeowner, one of the toughest things to learn is what are the questions you should be asking? And these are some big ones that I pulled out here. But I encourage you to ask open-ended questions, and you probably do this with other products. Maybe you ask them like, well, when do you listen to music? Or how do you want to set up these cameras? I don't know. I don't know what those questions are because I don't sell those products. But when I'm talking about shades, I say to people, how do you use this space? Do you watch TV in here? Do you guys work from home? I'm asking those questions because of screens. I want to know, do you have a television where we need to have the room darker? Do you have a television or laptops where I want to use maybe a darker colored fabric, which is going to help cut down on glare? When do you need privacy or room darkening? And what does that mean to you? So different people have different opinions about privacy. I live in New York City on the 23rd floor of my building. Not really anyone can see in. I don't really care about privacy. I pretty much never close my shades in my living room at night. I close them during the day because it's too sunny. But at night, I have them open. I want to see outside. I don't care about privacy. Now, there are other people who feel that they're only comfortable in their space if they know nobody can see. They don't even want people knowing if the lights are on inside. That customer has a totally different definition of privacy and where they need it. So we always want to talk to them about stuff like that. How do you use this room? I often just say the sentence, what are you imagining for your shades? Which is so open-ended, but it's going to give me direction. Now I'm going to understand what they're looking for. And they might tell me, oh, I really like a super simple roller look. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad I asked because now I'm not going to tell them about honeycombs. I'm going to tell them about rollers. So let's say you tell them about it. You say, what are you thinking of doing with these windows? And they say, well, I'm not really sure. We were looking at different options. And you say, well, have you heard about Lutron's options? And they say, no. And you say, well, they're really great, intelligent handbar alignment, blah, 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 end-of-line testing, all the good stuff. And they say, oh, okay, well, I'm pretty interested. Well, what's next? Okay. What's next is fabric, which I know everyone says, oh, I'm not a fabric person, blah, blah, blah. That's okay. You're not supposed to be the fabric person. You're going to bring them the materials they need so that they can make those decisions. So the first big thing you want to do is make sure they have fabric samples. Now, on the right-hand side, you see the solar screens and blackouts book. You might have that in the office. If you do, that's great. bring it, show it to the customer, have them flip through the fabrics. If not, don't worry about it. Up on the top right, this is a screenshot I took from lutronfabrics.com, which is our fabric website. If you go on lutronfabrics.com, you can find every single one of our fabrics there, and you'll actually see, I clicked on this fabric, and then you can see that I clicked on that little shopping cart icon. And what it says right there is this fabric has been added to your shopping cart. Now, when I go to view cart, I can order stuff for free, which is great. So you can order loose fabric samples to ship directly to your customer for free. You tell us where you want them shipped, and we will ship them. The only thing you need to place this order, this free order, is a My Lutron account. So if you guys have that login you use on my project, you can do that. That's fine. If you don't, let's say you're a homeowner can make their own My Lutron account. We basically ask them for their name and their email address, and then they can make a free account and they can order their own fabric samples. So it's really important that they have the fabric samples because it always looks different on the computer. You want to touch it and see it in person and hang it up in the window. I also show this demo. You guys probably have the demo somewhere. You want to make sure that you're using it. So please do. Take it out in the world, practice it at home if there's kind of a knack to setting it up. So practice it before you do it in front of a client, or you're going to have this thing kind of has jello legs. So you want to make sure that you know how to put the little, there are little wraps that keep it stable. You want to make sure you know how to put the stabilizers on before you try it in front of a customer. But they get so excited by this. Now, when we're talking about fabric, we definitely want to ask about the influencers. And so I would call that, what I mean by that is like an architect or a designer or a decorator. And if it's a renovation or like you could tell they're doing a refresh, they're replacing the furniture and stuff, you can say, oh, are you working with a designer? If they're working with a designer, this is great because you get to tell them like, well, awesome. Why don't you show the fabric binder to your designer? Or why don't you and your designer look on the website and choose some fabrics you like? Now that lady will help them choose their fabric options. And now when you get down to final selections, again, you want to make sure that they have the opportunity to touch and feel the fabric, hang it up in their window. It's free. Order the samples, hold them up so that they know that they like it. Now, I see a question in about fabric sample books. It's tough to keep fabric sample books updated. So we actually have on lutronfabrics.com, you can see this bottom picture. I have it on the inspiration gallery, which is where we have all of our really awesome images of shade products. But on the right-hand side, you see a little picture of a book called Resources. If you click on Resources, we have something brand new, which nobody on this call knows about. I don't think even the Bill and McCoy guys know about it because I only found out it was live today. It's a fabric binder. It's a binder view for your fabrics. So you can actually click on the classical binder, and then you can scroll down and see every single fabric option that's in there. And is it available? Was it on hold or discontinued? So that's going to be really helpful for you guys. And the other good thing is lutronfabrics.com is always up to date. You never have to worry about it. It's literally tied into our system. Anything you see on that website is available. Okay, now my last thing here is just be genuine. You're not a designer, you're the technical expert. That's okay. You're not there to help them choose whether white or gray fabric looks better. You're not there to help them know, oh, your style is really good for a honeycomb shade. That's not your job, okay? But you're gonna tell them about how it works, and you're gonna tell them about how it integrates into the other components that you're providing them. And you're gonna help them understand how they're going to live in the space once they have this stuff up and running. So if you feel excited about shades, which I hope you do, because I think it's really fun, we've got a couple cool lectures recorded on Bell McCoy University where you can learn more about specifying fabrics, more about the technical data behind fabrics. I find that really exciting. Like if I have a humid environment, I want to recommend an antimicrobial fabric. I can actually look up which fabrics are antimicrobial on the Lutron website and suggest that to my customer because I know they're putting it in a bathroom and it might get damp in there. So if that stuff is exciting to you, check it out. We also have a session on using my projects, best practices, how to not waste your time but get the most benefit out of using my projects. So that's all for me. Thank you guys so much. I'm so thrilled so many of you could join. This is awesome. If you have questions, of course, get in touch with your Bell McCoy reps. If they have to pull me in, I will come right in and have a conversation. We have a question about outdoor shades. Right now, we don't make any shades that are rated to be put outdoors. I won't say people haven't done it, but we don't make outdoor rated products. You certainly could put them, we've put stuff on like screened in recessed areas before, but there's a moisture concern and a temperature concern. So we do have the specs on that, allowable temps and allowable moisture on our technical specs.
Kathryn, did you go over the fact that we're going to do a webinar tomorrow?
Oh, I mentioned this. Maybe you guys don't know. Joel, who's on this call today, somewhere in here. Joel is our shade guru at Lutron, technical wizard. I'm into the sales. Joel is into installing it properly and how does it work. So Joel is like a fantastic resource. Tomorrow he's going to go through with you guys just the basics of this stuff, the basic technical, how does it actually work? Like, how do we actually make this stuff function, maximums, minimums, etc. And some of my project stuff.
Well, yeah, like one of the questions was, how do we measure these indoor shades? Like that's definitely what we're going to
Good question.
For tomorrow.
Yeah, Joel will tell you. Don't trust me because I measured my shades and they came an inch too wide. I don't know exactly what went wrong. So I had to do some shade surgery. Yeah, your PM measures them. That's true. Get someone else to do it.
I think too, like, I know you guys do quotes, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know for sure, but I know for doing just a budget, how to, I think Joel's going to do a little bit on how to organize the job, because there's an organization, especially if you're doing a large house or multiple rooms, and, labeling the shades correctly, and then how to get a budget created quickly. And that's kind of what we're going to go through tomorrow on the My Projects is, once you kind of get a customer and excited about it, going through like how do you get them a quote and what next and stuff like that. So it's gonna be the same time tomorrow, 2 p.m. I think we sent out a whole bunch of Outlook invites, but just reach out to your Bill McCoy rep, or I know Jacob and Chris and Simon have been forwarding out those invites. So it's the same thing. I mean, an Outlook invite with a Zoom link in it. So basically the same thing, except Joel Hibsman is going to be doing it from 2 to 3 tomorrow. If you guys have any more questions, just throw it in the chat.
Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll be posting this on Bill McCoy University, and so you guys can go back and watch it if you ever need to reference it, okay? All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Take care.